Hello, welcome to my first Infinity Battle report. This was a 200-point match between me and Anthony from the Sustainable Center. I had an Ariadna force that's mostly proxied out of Chaos Space Marines. That is supposed to be the Merovingienne Rapid Response Force. Um, I'm using a link team of 5 Metros, and then I have 2 Moblots, 2 Zuvas, I believe it's how it's pronounced. I have really no idea, and then another Metro who was wandering around. Anthony is taking a Panoceania military orders sectorial force. He has a link team of 5 Magister Knights, and then I think it's a Teutonic Knight Lieutenant. We'll have more pictures of them coming up. I wanted to showcase here in the beginning these shots of the terrain that Anthony prepared. You can see it on his channel, The Sustainable Center. He has a video dedicated to the making of the terrain. And after playing, a lot of Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40K, which is a more open battlefield where the terrain has more of a channeling effect and less of a direct effect on gameplay, it's really impressive to see the level of density required for a game of Infinity. But so this was a 200-point matchup, which is 4 special weapon choices. Here's just some other angles on the terrain that Anthony prepared, and that is just a delightful shot of Mr. Anthony in the upper right-hand corner. I felt the need to capture that one for the ages. Here are the miniatures that Anthony was proxying for his Magister Knights. Each Magister Knight is armed with a Panzerfaust, so 2 shots to use it, and because they're in a link team that's at 5 strong, their number of shots, their burst is increased by 1, so they can both, or they can all, I should say, shoot both of the Panzerfausts in a single round of a single shot, which makes them extremely dangerous. And it's a very aggressive, very you either win big or lose big when you've got so much loaded into Panzerfaust, because once the Panzerfaust ammunition is exhausted, they fall back to pistols. And this miniature back here, there'll be a more wide-range shot of the board, but this is Anthony's lieutenant. Since he can't take a Magister Knight as a lieutenant in this sectorial army, it's going to be pretty obvious given the the points cost there. The fact he's only got 6 miniatures. If 5 of them are in a link team, whichever miniature is not in the link team is probably going to be the lieutenant. So it's not very tricksy. This is the beginning of my my Merovingian rapid response deployment. It is a sectorial army. I do have a link team. This guy, however, is not a part of it because this is the DEP Metro, who is deployed using limited camouflage, so he gets like a goofy ghetto infiltrate. And we had a lot of laughs at this guy's expense. He actually crit the required roll to deploy, otherwise he scatters all over the place. He has to be deployed in this way, so he can't be a part of the link team. I picked it mostly because I really like the Metro's miniature line, but I didn't realize that there wasn't an option to take this guy without his goofy camouflage deployment. So I don't know if he'll make it into any future lists I use, but he was pretty silly. He has to be deployed at, on Anthony's side of the board, but outside of his deployment zone. So in this case, Anthony had deployed first. He had placed his link team in that building on the far side. This guy is out of line of sight, but kind of waiting to ambush them. The Chaos Space Marine Obliterators are approximately the same size as the Zuva Sapper on the base. And then I used the Dark Vengeance Chosen models to represent Moblots. The rest of the regular Metros will be just generic Chaos Space Marines or Metro miniatures. I'm not sure, haven't bought in yet wholesale on the army. I just like the miniatures. So for the first couple games, I'll probably just be proxying. This on the right is a Zuva with a heavy machine gun and a Moblot. I believe he's just a regular rifle Moblot. And then on this side of the board is a Zuva with a sniper rifle and another Moblot with a multi-spectrum visor, which doesn't have any bearing on this battle, but might sometime in the future, hiding behind those barrels on the right-hand side. And then here's my link team with the link team leader having a heavy machine gun in the center. The Bear Pewter Metro is a paramedic Metro. The guy with the horns there on the left-hand side is my lieutenant. However, he is identical in terms of being a Metro with a rifle to the other cast-based Marine with horns on the right-hand side, so Anthony is not entirely sure which. And then the plasma gun wielding cast-based Marine in the bottom right-hand corner is actually a light grenade launcher. So here you can sort of see what the back, my half of the board looks like. The Zuvas, we didn't read the rules correctly for them. They have mechanized deployment, so they deploy up to halfway up the board. However, they're supposed to be very close to each other. It doesn't have, it doesn't really probably have that much of an effect given how tightly deployed Anthony's entire force is, but it might have. I don't think it would have changed the outcome too tremendously, but I'll let you guys judge for yourselves. So here you can see a wider shot of the board with Anthony's on the left-hand side, his deployment zone. You can see my little DEP Metro sneaking up on them right there. My link team is to the right side of this shot, so you really can't see it. But I just wanted to get an idea of the total, area of deployment. Anthony had the first turn. He deployed first and went first. And as he moved up, this was our first little encounter here. His link team rounds the corner, so we're going to have a round of face-to-face combat between my my confused DEP Metro and his Magister Knights. The first one decides to use both of his Panzerfaust shots. And I know it is a tremendous surprise, but the Magister Knight manages to beat the 13-point Metro, even though he desperately tried to shoot his DEP. So first blood goes to Anthony in this particular case, dispatching the DEP infiltrating Metro. However, that is 1 out of 5 of the Magister Knights no longer has any Panzerfaust ammunition. So they continue to advance and come up to this building here where they take 360 cover looking in each direction and are not actually seeing around the corner yet, so there's no face-to-face with the Zuva and the mob lot that are kind of holding down this fire lane. And here you can kind of see the reverse perspective. In the lower left-hand corner, you're looking from that mob lot's perspective straight down towards where those, where those Magister Knights are taking up residence. So the first Magister Knight peeks his head out. I believe this is the missile launcher wielding one. The rest of them have Panzerfaust. This one has a missile launcher, so he can just continually repeat that. In the first face-to-face one, the sniper rifle wielding Zuva and the rifle wielding Moblot actually managed to beat this Magister Knight. It fails its armor saves and is killed. So the first, the first casualty of Anthony's link team right here from peeking around the corner and going toe-to-toe with the ambushing Sapper, Zuva, and the Moblot. You can kind of just, I don't know why I took 2 pictures of this, because it's exactly the same. And the second Magister Knight steps up to fire his Panzerfaust. This is not the same as the I know the miniatures when they're not painted like this, it's tough to tell, and they're not Magister Knights in the second place. However, this one does not have a little token next to it showing that it's used as Panzerfaust ammunition, and he's got three models left worth of 2 shots each. And this one is able to beat the Zuva in a face-to-face roll-off, destroying that Sapper. So here you can see a wider shot of the rest of the board with the lieutenant stepping up to the corner there with the heavy machine gun wielding Zuva, and the Moblot is to the left-hand side of that long skinny piece that the Zuva is right at the end of. Now, beginning of my first turn, with my first order, one of the Moblots advances to those sandbags. And here you can see he can't see those Magister Knights by those barrels on the other side of that building yet. And with my second order, he advances to take up a kind of covering fire there. My link team begins to step out and continues to advance with another order, so that's 4 orders total. And then with the 5th order, they take up a position where the light grenade launcher wielding Metro goes up on the highest edge there, so he actually, I believe, can see into that area, or at the very least will be able to see them when they round that corner. And then the heavy machine gun and the rifle wielding Metros are down on the lower level there. So with my remaining orders, I fire speculative shots in a parabolic arc over the terrain. However, They scatter and do not cause any damage, I believe, to the Magister Knights. What may have happened is I may have actually provoked a guts check, and Anthony made his armor saves. I don't really remember. I just remember that this first round of speculative shooting with the light grenade launcher wasn't incredibly effective. This is an interesting one. Anthony takes his lieutenant, the Teutonic Knight, I believe, out of cover and runs him up the board, provoking a face-to-face check with the Zuva heavy machine gunner and actually, this isn't even a Zuva. This is with the Metro heavy machine gunner and with a Metro rifleman who can see him as he advances to that hutch. It's quite a long shot. I hope this angle kind of draws the emphasis. This is absolute utmost range. However, we had like criticals from both, or at least from one of them, and then just very unfortunate rolls from Anthony on the other ones. And the lieutenant takes 2 wounds and fails the saves and is dropped by extreme long-range plinking, which was really just, that floored me because I didn't anticipate that. But the critical hit system means that you can get wacky stuff like this. And it also means this battle report might actually be almost approaching the length of the game when you take when you take into account how much faster the play is than, say, Warhammer 40K or Fantasy, for example. So yeah, here you can see the culprits, so to speak, that fuzzy Chaos Space Marine. In the center of the shot is the rifleman who criticaled, and then it's the heavy machine gunner who's just peeking around that corner there, who I believe finished the deal. And then you can see Anthony's Magister Knight in the lower right-hand corner, out of line of sight. And now they have a lost lieutenant condition that they need to resolve, and I believe Anthony uses his remaining orders to resolve lost lieutenant and assign a new one and not reveal it to me because all of his models left are identical, so he does not have to, it's something like that. So here is the position of Anthony's Magister Knights after actually the next slide. I just chose to take the close-up picture, I guess, before I took the picture of why I was taking the close-up. But here you can see the light grenade launcher. At the top was my Link Team leader, and the Magister Knight fires its Panzerfaust twice, beats me in the face-to-face, including with the heavy machine gunner. I think it was just a crit, and kills the light grenade launching Metro, and then dodges back around. And on my turn, my Metros begin to advance, and you can see I'm kind of sweeping around towards Anthony's currently dodging Magister Knights. We removed the ammo markers because at this point I think none of them have Panzerfaust ammunition left. So rather than continue to track those markers, we knew that was the case. You can see the heavy machine gunner moved into that position by the sandbags and attempted to sweep down all those Magister Knights, and 2 of them in response crit with pistol fire and killed it. Now you can also see my Zuva beginning to move around. This is the heavy machine gun wielding one in the top of the frame. The Zuva then lays down heavy machine gun fire, and I don't maybe causes a wound. I don't really remember. I think it causes 1 wound, and the rest begin to dodge and go prone. So at this point, these Magister Knights are now prone, which makes them the height of their actual base. So they're almost impossible to see beyond that intervening piece of cover. And Anthony begins to use his orders, including the new lieutenant order, to shimmy around the side of that building. And you can see the sort of the total board deployment there. I move my Zuva up onto that building, to that little lip there. I move the Metros back into cover. That's 2 Metros. One of them is my lieutenant. One of them is a paramedic. All 3 armed with rifles. And then that 1 mob lot is the multi-spectrum visor mob lot is over there as well. So here's another angle. I begin to bring the other mob lot back around. So I've got most of my forces consolidated there. And Anthony is only wielding pistols and close combat weapons. I lay down a suppression field as well in the area where I know he's got to emerge from, and we're going to see how it plays out. Yeah, here's an attempt to record from their eyes, so to speak, as the Magister Knights round the corner through the suppression or the suppressing fire laid down by the Zuva and into the face of the Metros. You can also see just the edge of that mob lot beyond those stairs in the center of the image. And the Magister Knights attempt to break out. I'm making reactions from 3 Metros, 1 Zuva, and 1 Moblot. And Anthony's rolling like a champ. Now the Magister Knights have a tremendous dodge statistic, so they're pretty good at getting out of the way of bullets. However, you know, luck's going to catch up with him. And I think the second model that attempts to move through the suppression area, or whatever it is, actually is dropped by the heavy machine gun Zuva. So the first one makes it through. The third model was already injured and rounds the corner. And I think that's all 3 of Anthony's orders. Moving on to my turn. Now here you go. Here's the concluding area. He's got the one Magister Knight behind that crate and barrel in the front, and then the other one on the corner. And the heavy machine gun Zuva lays it out. So, I mean, Anthony had successfully dodged, I want to say, like 3 or 4 shots, or 3 or 4 bursts from the heavy machine gun Zuva. So that was, you know, eventually luck's going to catch up with him, ridiculous dodge statistic or otherwise. And then the Moblot rounds the corner to finish it. Anthony drops prone with this guy as a response, and then begins to retreat. However, it's only 2 orders worth of shooting before eventually he fails an armor check, and that's the game. It probably could have been called earlier when he was out of Panzerfaust shots and just trying to take on like 60% of my models with pistols. But we wanted to play it out and just see, because it's more opportunities to check the rules. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is sort of the end of the first Infinity learning match that we played. Here's just one last shot of the board. You can see where I had formed that semicircle on his remaining guys and eliminated them. This was a lot of fun. I like the Metro models a lot. I think that they are. I like the idea of a low-tech army sort of scrapping together against crazy Ghost in the Shell, Ninja Black Ops and stuff in this, for lack of a better theme, and the fluff for Infinity. I just really can't. I mean, I haven't really tried. I shouldn't say that I've tried hard to get into the fluff for Infinity, because I haven't, but nothing's really hooked me yet. So the limited Ariadna stuff that I read seems fine, and I don't, you know, I like the idea of these guys kind of scrapping with relatively primitive technology against these hyper advanced teams of black operatives or whatever. So I hope you guys enjoyed this battle report. I'm not really sure what the best way to do Infinity reports, because it's so tactically intensive, and I felt like taking pictures was already, I wasn't entirely sure. You know, I'm not a great photographer to begin with, so trying to come up with the right focal length or have the pictures draw attention to what we're trying to demonstrate. Maybe we just need to invest in more markers to put next to the miniatures, and then try to take more dynamic shots. Once again, I want to give a tremendous, I don't want to actually clap for a thing, but like a round of applause to Anthony for preparing this terrain. I know he schlepped it back and forth to the game store a few times, and he schlepped it to my house, and it is tremendous. It gives us a real feeling of like tactical maneuvering in a miniatures game, which is usually more of a strategic thing, a high level, you know, dealing more in general commands and directions. But with this, you know, it felt very, felt much more intense and tactile in terms of your decision making. Now, we probably shouldn't have left that fire lane open between those 2 buildings with the sandbags on each side, because that's pretty long in terms of what Infinity line of sight should be, and actually, you know, did dominate our battle as a result. But even so, I think that this terrain was really good, considering the amount of time that he put into it and all that. So here's just one last parting shot of the board. Once again, I wanted to say that I had a great time. I think Infinity is a great game. It reminded me a lot of XCOM, which the remake that I've been playing a lot. I played the original XCOM as a kid. It was really one of my first PC games that I ever owned way back in the day. Playing through XCOM and now playing Infinity, I want to say that it's great to have a much more small-scale tactical game. It's a nice change of pace. And Infinity is great fun, relatively inexpensive. I think that a lot of the miniature cost kind of doesn't tell you the whole story, because this is a lot of terrain, and in terms of sheer manpower hours that Anthony invested into it, that's a kind of cost that needs to be taken into account when talking about game systems. But for something that otherwise was D20s and internet printed out, printouts or whatever, I thought this was great. It was a wonderful change of pace. We're not going to stop playing with Games Workshop products, of course, but to break it up and to provide a different tactical or strategic perspective on wargaming is always a nice experience. So once again, this was a game of Infinity, Ariadna, the Merovingian Rapid Response Force, versus the Panoceania military orders sectorial army that Anthony put together of Magister Knights. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you very much. Have a good one.